Daybreak on Arise News. It's time for the press preview. A first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. We're beginning with this day newspaper this morning, leading with the presidential election 2023. 365 days to that election. The aspirants are emerging. Some of those who have declared, some pictures here: Tinubu, Ayim, David Umahi, Dele Momodu, Okinu Lamidi, and some of those who are yet to declare: Professor Yemi Osinbajo, the Vice President, Atiku, CBN Governor, Emefiele, Saraki, and Amechi. More headlines on this day newspaper. Federal government moves to meet ASU's demand, constitutes white paper committee. Also reports in the this day newspaper, 22.1% of teachers in Borno State incompetent and untrainable. Above the nameplate this morning, at 3.4% in 2021, Nigeria's economy recorded highest GDP growth in 8 years. Non-oil buoyed growth at 94.81%.
And the Guardian, Nigeria leads on Osun Primary. Jagaban House of Commotion. Reminds me of a sitcom here in Nigeria we used to watch back in the days. It also has the picture of a suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police, Abba Kyari. The paper says he's in the eye of the storm. And Wike denies traveling with PDP governors to Europe to select presidential candidates. This and many more make the front page of The Guardian.
You would want to look at the Tribune. Kyari Gate. Police Commission suspends 2 indicted officers. Kano APC crisis. Gandage's faction wins at appeal court. Ikoyi building collapse. Consortium of professionals to scrutinize high-rise buildings. 2.557 trillion naira fuel subsidy. Reps begin review of 2022 to 2024 MTEF.
And the Punch newspaper this morning, federal government and the opposition PDP clash as the economy grows by 3.4%, the highest in 7 years. Also on the Punch newspaper, Arabeshola Oyetola's aide disagree as minister accuses governor of waging war. More headlines here on the Punch newspaper. NNPC shifts dirty fuel importation probe to National Assembly.
The UK braces for Stingjet storm is the headline for the Daily Mail this morning. Storm Eunice is bearing down on the UK, threatening widespread damage and even threat to life.
The Independent. Russia accused of false flag attacks in Ukraine.
And the Guardian newspaper and most of international papers also leading with that. Russia ready to fake cause for Ukraine attack, says Joe Biden.
Well, for the analysis, let's bring in Emmanuel Bello this morning. Emmanuel, great to see you again this morning. This day, the Newspaper of Records and our sister publication, leading with those very familiar faces, mostly familiar faces, and it's counting down. I didn't know until I picked a paper this morning. It's actually 365 days to the next presidential election in Nigeria. And it's actually categorized these faces on the front page of this day to 2. Some of those who have declared and those who are yet to declare. Let's just run through some of those names, Emmanuel Bello, and your thoughts on them. So for those who are yet to declare, we have the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. We have former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, the Governor of the Central Bank, Nigeria's Apex Bank, Godwin Emefiele, former President of the Senate, Bukola Saraki, and the current Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, who is also the former Governor of Rivers State. Your thoughts on those who are yet to declare? Are we likely to see them shift to declare?
Yes, that's why. Yeah, the cool shift to declare. I mean, they're taking their time. Osibanjo, for instance, is in the eye of the storm, literally, because he's. If you look at the pictures there, the man just directly on top of him used to be his, or is one of his political godfathers. Someone seemed to have propped him all these years and have moved him forward, and he has that to contend with in thinking of how. To either declare or not declare. There are all sorts of issues around his candidacy. He seems to be a favorite with a whole lot of people. Fresh, professorial, erudite, calm, collected, and all of that. Those are some of the things that people, associate with Osinbajo as they look at him, and seems to also fit into the APC kind of claims to transparency and reticence in power and all of that. Looks like a poster boy for that kind of image. But then the Pastorius is strong and very powerful mentor and leader. Tinubu is there to in the race. So these two in particular are beginning to, everyone is talking about it. The relationship that exists between them, the forces that we shape their decisions going forward. What their fans are saying and what they're doing. Already Tinubu, all sorts of things around his candidacy, especially with even the Guardian newspaper, for instance, doing a full-fledged story on some of the crises that he could have on a day that these days reeling out the names of, and it's quite extraordinary that we're actually counting days at this one, from today is 365 days. So we're not talking of years anymore. We're seeing the end of an era. We're seeing the end of the Buhari administration. His legacy will come into question. But as we look at his legacy, as we look back to the legacy, I think Nigerians are also worried about the future. Who takes it up from here? Where are we going from here? Who is going to solve some of the problem? A lot of them on the ground. Who has the power, the will? Who has the national appeal? As you can see their pictures here. Some of them well known, some not too known. The lone lady there who is banking on youth power is actually a face to be seen. She is also in the race, boldly saying she can use youth energy. And there are a whole lot of people who tell you that those are the kind of, that's what will shape the future, youth energy, technology, those driven by those kind of passion. And that the country must run like a business and not just left to power brokers, people who can win elections but can't really bring any sustainable change. And there are people who say, look, do away with the old and bring in the new. People like Dele Momodu are running on that and saying, look, we need ideas, we need big ideas. And I can translate. He's always been in the center of, critical comments in his columns and his, state interviews. And some people look up to people like that to say, look, if you know the extent of the problem, probably you also know how to bring a solution. So generally it's a huge package. Those picking this day newspaper today are picking their morning words to look at these people, because Nigeria needs to know them. Going forward, we need to actually zero on each one of these people to know their strengths, their national appeal, what they are bringing to the table, their ideas, their vision, how they think they can win elections, what kind of compromises are they prepared to make, what kind of relationship are they keeping around, because you need somebody who actually has an appeal across. And don't forget that they also have to grapple with the platform on which they are going to run, the issues of zoning, the issue of how viable those platforms are, the issue of whether Nigerians are prepared to support the candidate. These are some of the issues that going forward, 365 days, the political decks of most newsrooms will have to start doing a whole lot of analysis around this subject. It's a very, very important thing. We need to educate the public to know how to make informed choices as we head into the election year.
You have begun already, Emmanuel. Speaking of the zoning, taking a look at the candidates right in front of us. Of the 10 here, just one of the candidates is from the north, and that's the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. It appears that both major parties have unwittingly taken to zoning to the southern part of the country.
Sarah Case from North Central, former Senate President.
Yes, Saraki. Yes, Saraki is a northern. I mean, by that, when you divide the Nigeria into those bold segment. But you're right. The national mood is that power should shift to the south. That the North has had it for 8 years. I know people with very strong voices. I have spoken to strong voices in the North who actually think the same thing. But of course, again, we've argued this again and again here on this network, and we've said that there are people who are saying that it doesn't really matter where the president is coming from. But some will say that if you're going to be honest and you're going to be fair and you're going to be just, 8 years in the North, power should shift to the south, and maybe that's why you see a preponderance of candidates, of aspirants coming from the south, because I think the natural thing to do for most people in the power swing is that power should shift to the south. And so Atiku is in the race, yes, but also getting a lot of flack. Kasim Afebo has been saying his beat. Governor Wike yesterday, it was a takedown on when he said the man who is running his campaign accused the governors of trying to plot a presidential candidate, and he took down that statement. So there are oppositions to Atiku too, and most people from the North running for this are also getting all sorts of opposition, especially from their southern counterpart, who are saying, look, the North has had 8 years, power should shift to the south. Again, don't forget those centrist, middle of the road commentators and people who think that, look, it doesn't really matter, we have serious problems, we just need people that will solve those problems. But then again, the strong voices you hear in the polity is that, look, it's time for the South to produce a president.
Emmanuel, quickly before we move to the international papers, let's talk about Nigeria's GDP. The National Bureau of Statistics said it grew by 3.4%, the highest in 7 years. But the PDP is not having it. The opposition party says this is voodoo economics of President Buhari, and they argue that when you talk of economic growth, it must have a direct impact on the lives of the people. And some other experts also agree with that. They're saying while the growth should be acknowledged, its impact on other parameters such as poverty, unemployment, and other macroeconomic indices should be explored. Now, the APC also has a reply saying we have an opposition that does not want to hear anything good about the country or this administration, Emmanuel.
Of course, that's the kind of feeling you get when you read this story. The statistics are there, the numbers are there, and everything. But how much of that? And you are forced to agree with the opposition party who says, "Well, this looks like these are good numbers on papers." But how much has these numbers translate into anything in our lives? You say the economy is improving. There are people that will say, "Really? Are you serious? The economy has improved?" You talk about GDP. If you are unless if you are an economist like maybe Adeswa, who understands these figures very well. It's difficult to actually for the ordinary person to wake up and say the economy has improved. What most people see is the escalation in some of the suffering and some of the anguish in the polity, the problem of increase in prices of goods and services. That's what they see, not these figures. And I think that's what the PDP is saying, that look, this is voodoo, this is not real, this is fictitious. But again, these are records coming from the MBS. And if we have taken some of their statistics in the past on other indices, we must take these statistics too, unfortunately.
Emmanuel, very quickly, the International is saying the West is still convinced that Russia is going to invade Ukraine under the guise of a pretext invasion. But what are your thoughts? As Russia keeps insisting, it has no plans to invade its neighbor.
Honestly, it's a bit confusing, but you have the U.S. president yesterday saying emphatically that, look, in a matter of days, actually putting days, it used to be, they thought was weeks in the past, but in a matter of days, there's going to be an invasion. So to invade or not to invade, that's the question, and that's we're going to keep our eyes on it. Of course, you're right, the Russian government keeps saying that, look, those are just, that's not true. But Russia keep increasing those numbers of troops around the Ukrainian borders. And it's so obvious that, look, it's like the U.S. president is projecting that in a matter of days. Already there's actually a pretest. There's been some attack already. And so the U.S. is interpreting that to mean that the Russian forces will move in any time to attack Ukraine in the name of retaliations. And but that was actually a false flag. We're going to keep an eye on it. The U.S. president has said in a matter of days, and then the Russian government is denying. So it's for this word of words, like the President Biden put it. We're going to see these world wars, as he put it. We're going to see where the worst, whether these wars are going to lead to real wars. And so it's a matter of days, according to the U.S. president. We keep an eye on it.
Thank you, Manuel.